Alrighty, welcome to season 2, episode 4 of the Sports Talk with Dewey podcast. We got two Oakland Zoo legends on the day. We got the Boom and the Fish. It's really exciting because college football we're around 2 weeks away. The AP Top 25 just released. All three of us, our baseball teams kind of suck, so we're all looking forward to football. So the AP, like I said, the AP Top 25 released today. So I'm gonna ramble off to 25 teams as fast as I can. 25, we have Boise State. 24, we have Tennessee. 23, 22, we have Iowa State. 21, Ole Miss. 20, Indiana. 19, Texas A&M. 18, Oklahoma. 17, Kansas State. 16, SMU. 15, Florida. 14, Michigan. 13, South Carolina. 12, Illinois. 11, Arizona State. 10, Miami. 9, LSU. 8, Alabama. 7, Oregon. 6, Notre Dame. 5, Georgia. 4, Clemson. 3, Ohio State. 2, Penn State. I can't believe they're that high. That sickens me. Number 1 is Texas. So we're going to go with the Fish, then we're going to go with the Boom. The Fish, what are your initial thoughts as you saw the AP Top 25 trickle in today?
So looking at it as you were naming it off, it kind of is what I expected. A bunch of SEC and Big Ten schools. You got Boise State at the bottom there, just as like a throw-in school, like just a group of five school, just so we can say we have one in there. It's kind of the type of poll you'd expect for preseason. I don't usually put too much stock into these because a lot can change throughout the season. This is more of just like a projection of what the voters think is going to happen. But as you were reading those names, a couple of teams stood out. I'll start with Indiana. It's really interesting to see how they'll do. Kurt Cignetti, obviously, he's had a ton of success in his career at JMU and now at Indiana. We'll see how that goes as he continues throughout his tenure at this program. Year 2 now, they have Fernando Mendoza, who was the Cal quarterback last year. So it'll be interesting to see how he makes the switch to the Big Ten and how he plays there. I think also Michigan being ranked 14th, I didn't expect them to be quite that high. But I also am pretty high on them. I think Bryce Underwood is the real deal. The number one, I haven't seen too much of him, but all indications from camp is that he's playing really well. And obviously the number one prospect in last year's class, he's probably he's going to have a big season if Michigan wants to win, and I think that he will. And then if we look down near the bottom at number 24, Tennessee, it's kind of interesting. A little bit of uncertainty there is how the quarterback position will be after losing Nico Iamaleava to UCLA. It's just the voters have moved them down quite a bit as to what they probably would have been a top 10 team if he was there. But obviously, Josh Heupel's a great coach. They always have a great offensive scheme, and they have a bunch of 4-star quarterbacks in the waiting. So we'll see. And obviously, quarterback's not the only position on the field. It's just something I put a lot of emphasis on too. But we'll see how that goes for them. Those are just a couple of teams that really stood out to me. But we'll see as the season progresses what happens to the poll.
So yeah, before we pass it off to the Boom, I'm really impressed, the Fish, how you said Nico's name. I could never do that in a million years. So
I appreciate it, Duey. Yeah, it was the first time I had said it, basically. Well, second, the first time was when we recorded this first before the connection cut off. So yeah, I got a little practice in.
So yeah, I'm excited to see what the Boom says. I've known this guy for a couple years. Every single year, you mark the calendar. Okay, the Boom's gonna crap on the AP Top 25 poll. So the Boom, what's your thoughts on today's release?
Well, the general thought still is that we're past the need of preseason polling. All it does is prop up narratives that we see in the season, and then it insists upon itself at a certain point in the middle of the year because they pack the poll with, you know, 9 SEC teams, and half of which don't even deserve to be there. I don't have Tennessee anywhere near my poll with Nico out to UCLA now. That team's just not. They have a lot to prove, and he was such a big part of that team last year. I don't think, if I'm a voter, I don't think I have them over some of the teams that missed out on the poll. Your BYU, Utah, Louisville's of the world, and of course, 20 through 25 on the AP poll is, it's historically relatively recent. They used to only rank 20. And it's just a filler in the preseason to just throw a bunch of people, a bunch of teams and stories into the poll for no reason other than the fact that it just rounds out the AP Top 25. I mean, the Fish, you said it perfectly. I mean, just throwing in Boise State, token group of 5, there's no real discussion over whether that team actually is anything like they were last year with Genty and making the playoff. There's no real discussion or thought that went into having Boise State in the poll, and I think they actually have a really good argument for being ranked higher than where they were shoved in there. none of these voters are looking at that. They're looking at this. They're looking at this, you know, competition between spots 10 and 20 over what hyped up team is going to actually come through this season. I mean, you have Miami ranked at 10th. I actually think, to this poll's credit, I think the top 10 is pretty set. I think there's rarely consensus in the college football world over the best tier of teams, and I do think that this poll captures it perfectly. Maybe you can argue a different spot or two, but I think the top 10, specifically the top 9 from Texas through LSU, is pretty good, pretty consistent with what most people across the country see and think going into this season. And then I think that'll back up on the field this season as well. But I mean, but did you have Miami at 10? I mean, how many times have we done this? This is, an every other year thing where Miami gets a ton of preseason hype. They get a big transfer with Carson Beck coming in there now. And I get it. Like, this team, finished last season pretty strong. I mean, they were good enough to be competitive and relevant on the national level, just not championship relevant, but I guess relevant enough to go to the Pop-Tart Bowl. Like, they just threw them in there for no reason, though. And I don't think that they deserve to be 10th. I do think they deserve to be ranked, but not 10th. Illinois, South Carolina, two teams that have a lot of hype coming into this year. As of recent years, they have not come close to that. And I don't think last season necessarily merited. I obviously got Sellers, the quarterback at South Carolina. He's going to do great things. In Beamer, I still want to see more from him as a coach. And so you just have all these random programs thrown in there from, 10 to 20, and they're just stories. And I get it. It's a preseason poll. It's designed to start stories, but this poll is designed to rank football teams. And I wish the system would be different. I really do. I wish there was a better way to go about it. I mean, the only major thing I would really change is I wouldn't have Tennessee in the poll. I think the teams in the poll are fine. I think Ole Miss is severely underseeded. I think Arizona State is a top 10 team. I think Illinois and South Carolina are overrated as well as Miami. And then I think BYU and Utah should have been in there as well.
Yeah, good stuff. And you also got to remember that the AP Top 25, you have a lot of voters voting, so maybe some of these people didn't have Tennessee in it either, but maybe one person had them super high because they're a homer. It is an interesting
Yeah.
poll, but it is accumulation of a ton of people's voting. But yeah, I like what you guys said. A thing that caught my eye is, yeah, I mean, Penn State number 2, I think they should be a little bit lower than that. I think it's complete crap. Everyone wants them to be good. Alabama at 8. I think Alabama, like, obviously, not many people know about Ty Simpson yet, but he is a 5-star recruit, and Alabama's roster is stacked. So I think they should be a little higher than that. Miami at 10. I think the Fish remembers last year I was pretty high on Miami before last season because I'm a big Cam Ward fan. This year, I don't feel the same way. I don't like Carson Beck. He has so much baggage with the Cavender twins. I think it's in his head at this rate. So I think Miami's going to tank it. But other than that, I'm pretty fine at the top 25. Ole Miss, I'm not that high on. Like, I don't know if they should be ranked. But overall, I'm fine with it. So yeah, let's move on to one of my favorite things to do every year, predicting your sleeper teams and your overhyped teams. So, the Fish, start off with some sleeper teams you think for this season.
Sleeper team. So I have one main sleeper team. And as someone, I mean, obviously, we all went to Pitt. I follow the ACC quite closely. And you look at what's going on in Atlanta at Bobby Dodd Stadium with Georgia Tech. Haynes King is 6-year quarterback. He has a ton of college experience. Historically, those sorts of players who come back in their final year have huge seasons. I expect big things from him. I think that that's the main reason why I feel Georgia Tech's going to have that level of success. And especially like you look at the ACC, it's just not very difficult this year. They play Clemson, but they avoid SMU. They avoid Louisville. Their schedule is a little bit easier. They avoid Miami as well. So they have a path to having a very successful season this year. Would not be surprised to see them in the top 25 relatively early this year. They beat Colorado. They have Gardner Webb on their schedule. And then week 3 is against Clemson. That could be a huge game. You see them winning that game, and it propels them throughout the rest of the season. So they're my main sleeper. In terms of other ones, I know I mentioned Michigan earlier in the podcast. I think they're someone else who not a lot of people are talking about. I mean, you look at Sharon Moore. He's a guy who was under Jim Harbaugh for the longest time. First year thrown into the fire last year as the head coach, losing your starting quarterback JJ McCarthy, losing your starting running back Blake Corum, and who won you the national championship. Obviously, you're going to have a drop off. But the fact that they beat Ohio State, who was the national champion, they beat Alabama in their bowl game, I think a lot of momentum goes towards that. And obviously, with the number one prospect in the country, Bryce Underwood, I think Michigan's a team to watch out for as well this year. And another conference, the Big Ten, which is very top heavy. Look, you got Ohio State, you have Penn State. Maybe you throw you could talk about Illinois and Indiana being overrated, whatever. You talk about Nebraska, but those are all kind of like the potential middle tier teams. There's an opportunity there for another Big Ten team or two to step up and make that jump. And I think Michigan has the tools, as we saw near the end of last year. And more the one game that he coached a couple years ago. I can't remember. I think they played Penn State that game, right? And then they won whenever Harbaugh was suspended.
Yeah.
Was it Penn? It was Penn State they played.
It's that visual of Sharon Moore crying after doing that. Like, it's like Jim Harbaugh died or something. It's just
I mean, I bought into it. I bought into it. I don't know about you, the Boom. I know it might be stupid, but I think he has the potential to be a good coach, and we'll see what Michigan does this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with a lot of what you said, the Fish. And I'm going to say something here that I don't think either of you two are going to like. But in terms of a sleeper team, the fact is I'm just putting this out there. Pitt fans need to prepare for the worst. They need to prepare for the worst because this Penn State team is really good. It is really talented. The thing holding them back right now is James Franklin and Drew out. It comes down to those guys. I mean, that defense is ridiculous. They lost Abdul Carter and they'll still be fine. But the offensive weapons that this team possesses, they have the best running back room in the country. Their O-line is massive and they have very, very talented receivers on the outside. It is a very talented team. It is capable of winning a national title game. Now, with that said, this is a James Franklin coach team, and those teams have not always risen to the moment. The highest moment that they've risen to is a Rose Bowl victory or a Big Ten title game. I don't have them as my Big Ten championship winners this season, but I do have them making the playoff, and I do have them making a run. This is a team capable of doing that and capable of winning the national title game, barring injury. It's going to come down to their signal caller, and it's going to come down to their coaching. They have everything necessary to do it. Now, there are plenty of other teams out there that have it, but I'm saying this as the sleeper because being an in-state rival, we don't want to see them be good, but they have all the tools in the shed to do it. I will be the first one to laugh when they don't, but it is a possibility that I think you'd be worthwhile mentally preparing yourself for. Beyond that, though, I think something here, and this is wild left turn, but let's talk some group of five for a second in terms of sleepers. They threw Boise State in there. They got a lot to prove after losing Genty and just after such a big season for them. You know, other teams with a lot to prove in this new era of college football, your service academies. Both Army and Navy finished the season very strong. Blake Horvath is still the quarterback at Navy. That team is going to be hard to beat. They're both academies, are both Navy and Army are in the American now, and they will compete for that title. Army to defend it under Jeff Monken, who many thought was going to leave this offseason and seek a larger job, and Navy, who has now found their stride under their new head coach. And with Horvath there, I mean, he put on a show at the end of last season, and he's an extremely talented player. So keep an eye out for those guys. Those are, I think, if you see the Mountain West champ or Mountain West leader stumble, you know, as we get later into the season, I think the American champ is going to be right there in position to potentially grab a spot. With all the NIL stuff, you know, three schools that cannot do NIL: Army, Air Force, Navy. They can't, and so
they
to
can't
see
redshirt either.
No, they can't. So these guys, they have some big challenges in this new era of college football. But I do think that the coaching that these guys have in Annapolis and in West Point are going to be able to take these teams somehow into this expanded playoff. I don't know what they'll do, but I mean, a well-run triple option is dangerous for any team in the country. And so I wouldn't shut your eyes to there. I think they're going to come out of the American. I think one of those two teams is going to come out of the American. Again, watch out for someone stumbling in the Mountain West. You could end up with the Service Academy in the playoff. Don't think it's that far out of the question.
Okay, that would be pretty awesome to see a Service Academy in the college football playoff.
That's
I'm
the
all for it.
dream of the 12-team playoff, right? Is that you give access to teams that wouldn't normally make it. And they do have again, top 5 ranked conference champions, right? Under this current format. It's possible. And I think it's possible. I really do. It would require help elsewhere. And the Mountain West has a stronger strength of schedule overall than what you'll get out of the American. The polls are not going to give a triple option team the respect it deserves unless they beat someone. So it's going to require a stumble somewhere else. But those are not those two teams. Like in a well-oiled triple option is not what you want to run into in December.
So yeah, I like your picks. Besides the boom glazing Penn State, that's not really allowed in my podcast.
Just prepare yourself.
I know what's going to happen with them. They're going to beat all the crap teams. They'll lose to Ohio State. They'll lose to all the good teams. They'll make the playoffs. They'll beat like Boise State, and then they'll blow the game against the good team. It's what happens with Penn State every year of big game James Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, the boom, whatever you said, they have such good weapons and they have a good defense, which is true. But you saying their head coach and their quarterback are the big question marks, that's a huge red flag.
Oh, it
to
is.
Me, those are two important people in the program.
It is. And absolutely, I think Drew, we were talking about his team is something that's overhyped. I think Drew Aller's overhyped. I don't think there were plenty of throws in the playoff that, I mean,
what was that interception against Notre Dame? That was
exactly. It's just ridiculous.
He's been doing it, bro.
But here's the thing is, he's good enough for them. I think he's not raising the game of that offense, but as long as he doesn't hurt it, I think that team is good enough to take them where they need to go. I do think, what was I going to say? I do think they get the revenge on Oregon this year. That's the whiteout game this year. I do think they get their revenge there. I don't think they beat Ohio State. I don't think they win the Big Ten, but I do think they get their revenge on Oregon in Happy Valley this season. But I think not making the Big Ten title game, I think, give them some rest, and hopefully big game James Franklin can figure it out for once for their sakes. And
stupid bald head.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Boom. So you're talking about these Penn State wide receivers, right? So if Penn State has these wonderful wide receivers, why are they trying to poach Kenny Johnson? Explain that.
And hey, they have some they have some money there, man. They're not building any statues anymore, so they have to find a way to spend their money. Buying some Pitt receiver would be great. I mean, Eddie Johnson's fantastic, as we know. I mean, I'm sure they're not the only higher tier program. I'm not going to call them a blue blood. The only higher tier program to reach out. I'm sure they're not the only.
So Drew Aller, super overrated. He's like Will Levis. They think he's super tall. Yeah,
Will Levis is a
Christian Hackenberg, Trace McSorley.
Aller is a great arm,
Don
but
Clifford.
You can't throw it in the ocean with a ball. He's so inaccurate. He can't make simple plays. He chokes in every single big game. This guy's an absolute bum. So that's what I have to say. And then everyone's glazes Andy Koltonecki. He's a good coordinator, but that guy, his passing game kind of sucks. He does not get his receivers involved at all. He's going to run the ball like it's 1965. Then they're going to lose. It happens every year. They poached Ohio State's defensive coordinator. Congrats. Nothing's going to happen. They're going to lose like usual. It's Penn State. I hate that school.
Yeah. Again.
Thank you, Duey.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, again, their issue in previous years is they haven't met the moment.
Big game James never likes the big moment.
Yeah, they need, if they have the talent to. There's not really an excuse, like, roster wise at this point. There's not a hole that you can point at, I think, and be like, James. That's the problem. That's why they couldn't do it. I mean, maybe quarterback, but I think Aller's, again, good enough. I don't think he's this otherworldly top prospect dude, but I think he's good enough.
He just needs to turn around and hand the ball to Nick Singleton and Katron Allen all game. Like,
exactly.
That's what he's got to do.
And then make the occasional downfield throw. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
His work is pretty self-explanatory.
Because he can't make Drew Aller cannot make the splash play. He's a true system quarterback. He has no touch. He's an absolute bum. Okay, let's move on from Penn State. So let me go off my 4 sleepers. I'm excited to share them. Like the Fish said, we're all ACC fans. I watch the ACC pretty closely, so I'd have 2. So my 4 teams are the teams that I put in my personal top 25 that did not end up on the AP top 25. We'll start off with the 2 ACC teams. Number one's Louisville. Miller Moss is a really good quarterback, and I don't think Isaac Brown's talked about enough. This guy's an electric running back, one of the best in the country. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Louisville's offense. Hopefully they chill off against Pitt in week 4. That's all I'm asking. Just don't have a good offense against Pitt. My second ACC team, which I'm extremely high on, everyone knows it as a basketball school, but it's becoming a really good football program if Manny Diaz is Duke. They pay a bag for Darion Mensah. I thought he was one of the better quarterbacks in college football last year. They have 2 elite secondary. They have 2 elite defensive backs. One is, you need to learn the name, is cornerback Chandler Rivers, who I think he arguably the best cornerback in college football. They have a solid offensive line. They also have a really good safety in Terry Moore. So I like those 2 ACC teams as sleepers. Another one is Utah. They got quarterback Davon Dampier, who is, in my opinion, one of the best dual threats in college football last season. He passes it, he runs it at New Mexico. This guy's an absolute stud, and they have probably the best left tackle protecting him in Spencer Fano, and he's a great tight end target in Tanner Koziol, if I said his name right. So I'm really liking Utah in the Big 12. My last one is Missouri. Bo Pribula is a great guy. He transferred right when the college football playoff started, so great for him. Great decision leaving Penn State. They have elite running back from Louisiana Monroe, Ahmad Hardy. They have a good offensive line, really good safety in Jalen Catalon. So those are 4 teams I'm really liking as sleepers going into this college football season. So let's move on to some overhyped teams. The Fish, who do you think is getting overhyped heading into the season?
Oh, I think there are 2 teams that are getting overhyped, and these are kind of. I feel like you hear these teams' names every year in the top 25, and every year they lose to like App State or someone really early on, or like Florida A&M or some team like that, and then their stock drops, and it's Miami and Texas A&M. Those are 2 teams that are always in the top 25 and then always lose some stupid game. Like it's over and over this happens. Like I'm just not. I guess I'll start with Texas A&M. I'm just not super high on Marcel Reed. Like we'll see how he progresses throughout his career. He's still really young, but that Texas game at the end of last year wasn't great. Mike Elko is a good coach, but again, in a tough SEC in a conference like that, I don't know if M is going to be able to stay afloat. Last year, they went on a really big winning streak to stay in the competition, in the conversation until the end of the season. But I don't know. I just don't see it for them this year. And the same thing with Miami. I just don't think Cristobal is any good. Mario Cristobal, like he made the Rose Bowl a couple of times with Oregon, but that's in the Pac-12. When the Pac-12, it's a wheel of destiny. Like it changes every year. There's no like crazy amazing teams from that conference near the end. I mean, obviously Washington made the national championship the last year, but it's like it's not crazy impressive to go 10-2 and sneak your way into the Rose Bowl with Oregon. And now he's with Miami. They had Cam Ward, the number 1 overall draft pick, and they went 9-3. Didn't have a good defense last year. I don't expect that to suddenly change this year. I think them being ranked number 10 is honestly generous. I know a lot of people are hyping them up, but I just don't see it from them this year. So that's pretty much all I got for those teams.
Yeah, and to bounce off of that, Fish, Miami is absolutely overhyped. I mean, we see this; they do this every year.
All right.
I mean, you have a Heisman finalist, number 1 overall pick as your quarterback last year. Not only that, but you had at least 2 results last year that went Miami's way that were in doubt. You know, the Virginia Tech Hail Mary that was called. I don't know if it was wrongly called, but it was a mess. And then you had the weird stuff happen out when they played Cal, both of which easily could have gone the other way. So suddenly you're looking at 7-5 Miami, which is where I think they'll be this year. I'm not believing in Carson Beck. The Georgia roster that he was a part of was very, very good. I don't believe in that defense either. And that was their issue last year. I don't know where they got better. I don't know. So.
Pretty fair. You guys brought up 2 teams I'm going to say. Well, not the one, but so yeah, I'm starting off with Miami. Carson Beck used to be really good, but last year I thought he was extremely embarrassing. Like what you said, the Boom, Georgia had the best team last year, in my opinion.
Yes.
And I think the quarterback play ruined it. I actually picked Georgia to win it all last year. I liked Carson Beck going to last season. I just thought he was terrible. And, breaking up with the Cavinder twin breaking up with Beck, I think that's going to affect him. That's a lot of baggage. It's going to be in his head. He goes to Miami. I think he's going to absolutely suck this year because he just got absolutely exposed. I don't know how he's going to recover from that. Then let's talk about Mario Cristobal. I think he's a total clown. We've seen this guy blow many games from his stupidity. Remember the game like 2 years ago? He wouldn't
Yeah.
take a knee and they lost. Like, he's such a clown. So last year, I'm a big Cam Ward fan, so I really liked them going to last year. This year, I agree. Number 10 is ridiculous. Do they deserve to be the top 25? Yes. I think I have them
Yes.
like 14th or 15th. But yes, I think they're extremely overhyped. The next one's going to shock people, but I'm going with Georgia. I think they lost so much from last team. I just don't think they don't have that many proven players coming back. They're going to have a really good defense with Kristen Miller and KJ Bolin and CJ Allen, but I don't know what they're going to have on offense. I wasn't really um impressed with Gunnar Stockton last year. So overall, I don't think this is like a overall vintage Georgia team like usual because they've lost so much, and I'm just not sold on Gunnar Stockton. So let's go on with conference predictions. Let's do the ACs, the Power Four, then let's pick our Group of Five champion. Then we'll move on to the college football playoff. So, the Fish, who do you have in the ACC championship? Who do you have beating who?
I've got Clemson beating SMU in the ACC championship. I know it's kind of a boring pick, same as last year. But to be honest with you, I don't see anything crazy different. Same two quarterbacks. Clemson has an amazing defense going into this year. Well, I think that's the main difference, right? Is that Clemson's team is that much stronger. I think they're going to be good enough to get a bye in the playoffs. And the win against SMU will solidify that. I think SMU, Rhett Lashley, he's building something there, and the donors are building something there with how much money goes into that program. So I think they're not going anywhere this year, but Clemson is just going to be too much to handle.
Boom, who do you got?
Out of the ACC, I have Clemson versus Louisville. I have Louisville, and here's the thing: is I have Louisville there, having lost to Pitt in September. So I think this Louisville team is good. I think Miller Moss is there. I think they drop a couple games elsewhere, and I think that they will do well in conference, but I think you'll see them lose a late season game against like a Kentucky or something that will make that ACC title game a win and end situation for Louisville. I don't think they'll make it. I still think the ACC can put in 2, maybe 3, but it will not be the loser. It will not be Louisville as the loser of the ACC title game. Clemson, it's their conference to lose. Last year was, by their standard, a down year. And the year before that, I mean, this is an extremely talented team. They will be and should be carrying the flag of this conference within the top 5 of the country for most of the year. And but I think you're going to see a very interesting conference race. I don't think you're going to see Florida State come all the way back quite yet, but they'll be around the conversation. I think Pitt will as well. But Georgia Tech, if they can sort it out, could also be there as well.
Yeah, I have Clemson as well. I'll talk about Clemson more as it goes on. I'm really high in Clemson. Klubnik is the best returning quarterback in the country. Like you guys said, their defense is insane. The defensive line is TJ Parker and Peter Woods. And then a familiar name at cornerback, AJ Terrell's younger brother, Avion Terrell. He's an absolute stud at corner. So Clemson I think, one of the most complete teams in the whole country with the best returning quarterback. And I have another. Yeah, like I said before, I'm really high on Duke, so I'm gonna have Clemson beating Duke in the title game. I really like Duke, so yeah, that's one of my hotter takes is Duke's gonna make the ACC championship game. So I have Clemson beating Duke because Clemson's absolutely insane. So let's move it on to the Big Ten, the Fish.
Big Ten. I have the game, Ohio State taking on Michigan in the Big Ten championship game, and I have Ohio State pulling that out. I mean, Julian Sand throwing it to Jeremiah Smith is going to be pretty awesome to see. Ryan Day has proven himself after winning the national championship. I mean, Ohio State's not going anywhere, really. I've got them beating Michigan, which is going to be interesting to see if they do play in the conference championship. How will that affect, will the week before, will that game not have as much meaning? Like, if both teams are solidified in, I don't think Michigan necessarily will be at that point. I think Ohio State will, but will they let off the pedal a little bit? What will sort of be the nature of that first game going into that conference championship? That'll be kind of interesting to see if we do see that rivalry in the conference championship game.
All right, the boom. You talk a lot about the Big Ten and Penn State. So who do you have winning the Big Ten?
Penn State won't make the championship game. It's going to be Oregon, Ohio State in my book. They don't play they're not matched up this year in conference. They don't have each other to take each other out like they did last year. I think you're going to see Oregon. It's going to be a great story. I mean, you're going to have Oregon there going for back-to-back Big Ten titles in its first 2 years in the conference, with Ohio State still, chasing at that point, potentially an undefeated season and potentially back-to-back. I mean, I don't know who gets it done in that right now, but I'm going to go with Oregon again. I think they can do it. I think they're still talented enough to. They have an interesting schedule. They play Oklahoma State early in the year, so a Power 5 test. I think it's going to kind of be a wake-up call game, similar to how Boise State was for them last year, in terms of they're going to figure some stuff out. And then as they get into conference play, the schedule is pretty favorable for them this year. They end versus Washington, which will be a nice tune-up game. But I don't see Oregon being challenged much with the schedule that they play, other than Penn State being the big game for them. They play Wisconsin as well and Rutgers, but I don't see them being challenged very much to this point. And in terms of Ohio State, they will have just played Michigan the week before. I mean, I don't know who wins the game right now this year, but I expect Ohio State to go through their schedule pretty regimented. I don't know if they'll finish undefeated or not, but I expect to see them in Indianapolis. I don't think they'll pull it out. I think Oregon wins.
Yeah. See, we all have different matchups. I have Ohio. I do have Penn State making the championship game because that's what they do that sometimes. So I have Ohio State thrashing Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. Yeah, I'm pretty high in Julian saying he was a big time recruit out of high school. I think Ohio State, I mean, it's going to be easy, throwing the Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. I love Carnell Tate. I don't think he's talked about enough because Jeremiah Smith's the big face there. But yeah, I have Ohio State destroying Penn State in the title game. Oregon, I love Oregon's team. I don't know what to expect from Dante Moore. He was a 5-star. I do remember him. He's not proven yet, so I kind of want to see what he does this year, but I do like Oregon's team. So, yes, I have Ohio State beating Penn State. Let's move on to the Big 12, the Fish.
Big 12. I got Arizona State over Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech, I'll be honest, the Big 12 is probably a conference I don't know the most about. I'm not super well versed on Texas Tech's team, but I know they got the oil money. That's kind of and it was kind of funny. I saw on Twitter they have like a mock oil rig like outside of their stadium now, which I think is really funny that they're kind of leaning into that. So in the future, if they can shell out that money, I think they might be a force to be reckoned with in a weaker Big 12 conference. But obviously Arizona State is the pick, going into this season with Kenny Dillingham. And their quarterback's name, the Michigan State transfer, is blanking on me.
Arizona State's quarterback, Sam Leavitt. He's a true
Sam
sophomore.
Leavitt.
He's not a Michigan State transfer.
I don't know who I was thinking of then. I thought maybe he was. Anyways, yeah, Levitt is the guy I was thinking of. But obviously, without Scadaboo, that'll hurt. But I still think that Dillingham, you look at those practice, like some of the closer practices, he's like, oh, we look like an awful team or whatever. Like that's just the type of motivation that he's going to be providing. I was going to pick BYU before Retzloff transferred, but that changed my mind personally.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, I got Arizona State. I think this is a coming out party. This is a team that I'm actually buying into the hype on this year. You have quarterback continuity with your head coach. They've received help in the areas they need help in. You lose Scadaboo, but I mean, a running back's a lot easier to replace than a quarterback or, a head coach. So I got them in the title game over Kansas State. Kansas State's another strong team there, but I think this is another weird kind of conference game situation in this mega conference that you now have, where another really good team that is going to be relevant nationally will stumble in conference play in the Big 12. And I think could sneak into the playoff. I think you look at BYU if they can figure it out with their quarterback, Utah potentially, Iowa State continually knocks on the door of the New Year's Six. I think one of those teams stumbles somewhere in the regular season, and so they're again outside of the conference championship weekend, but have a resume that could potentially put them in the top 12. Again, a team like Iowa State, you beat Iowa, you can ride a Power 5 win like that for a little while. So I've got Arizona State.
Yes, yeah, same with me. I'm really high in Arizona State. I actually have them number 7 in my top 25. I love Sam Leavitt. I think he's honestly, in my opinion, I think he should be talked about more. Everyone talks about Arch Manning, but this guy, I think he could be the first overall pick next year. He's an absolute stud. He also has one of the best receivers in the country, Jordan Tyson. I love Dillingham. So I'm really high in Arizona State. I love what everything's going on there, and I have them beating Texas Tech. So I have the same exact result as the Fish. I have Texas Tech. I'm really high on as well. They spent so much money on their team. They have a really good defense. They have a good quarterback in Bayron Morton. So yeah, I have Arizona State over Texas Tech, just like the Fish. All right, let's go to the SEC, the Boom's favorite conference, the Fish.
Yep. SEC, I got Texas over Bama. Again, kind of a cookie cutter matchup, but Arch Manning, I do think he's the real deal. I have a lot of confidence in him. Texas, the sort of like Sarkisian, a great coach. And Bama's always going to be up there, right? Like you said, Duey, Georgia, Gunnar Stockton, there's some questions there. Are they going to be as good? I'm really high on DJ Lagway. I considered putting Florida in this game. I think they'll have an amazing season. But I just, Bama, I think, is going to be that other team in that conference championship.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit of deja vu. I like Gunnar Stockton. I'm a believer in this Georgia team. I don't think they're going to win it. But I think they're good enough to get back to Atlanta, and I think they're going to play Texas, and that'll be another classic. And I've got Texas winning it, though. I think Texas's woes are going to be less in the SEC and more nationally when if they can make the playoff again. But I've got them winning the SEC. Arch Manning, you got Sark as head coach there. I mean, they got what they need. There's a reason they're preseason number one. Georgia's ranked highly for a reason. I think you're going to see a little more parity in the SEC this year than you have previously, just because I think Georgia's roster is in a little bit of a weird place. I still think they're good enough. Uh, still is still weird. Like you can't really get a read on them because DeBoer's the head coach. I really don't feel like people know what to expect from that team quite yet, and so I'm not confident enough putting them in the title game again. I think they're going to be waiting for another year at least.
Yeah, I have the same thing as the Fish. I have Texas over Alabama. Alabama is so stacked. I mean, you have the offensive line. You probably have 3 draft picks on with Caden Proctor, Jane Roberts, and Parker Brailsford, who's probably the best center. Then you have a
Mhm.
stacked defense with Tim Keenan, Bray Hubbard, and Deontay Lawson, Ryan Williams, everyone knows about, and I really like Ty Simpson. Tex Texas, I don't know. I think their defense is unbelievable. Texas's defense is truly unbelievable. Anthony Hill Jr. is probably maybe him or Caleb Downs is the best defensive player in the country. You got Colin Simmons, Malik Muhammad, Michael Taffy, I don't know how to say his name. He's fantastic, the safety. So I'm taking Texas because I think Arch Manning is going to be really good. I trust him over Ty Simpson. But if that's the SEC, if that's the SEC championship, I mean, I can't even imagine watching the line of scrimmage during that game. It would be an absolute war. But yeah, I have Texas. Both teams are super good, but I'm taking Arch Manning over Ty Simpson. That's what it goes down to. But man, that would be such a great game. So, all right, let's go to let's just talk about the group of 5. So, Fish, who do you have getting the playoff out of the group of 5?
I've got Tulane. I know it's a little bit of a out of the box pick, but I know Boom doesn't like it because of his Service Academy bowl prediction. They brought in, gave Jake Retzlaff a bag. I was really high on him at BYU. I don't see why things would change at Tulane. Obviously, they lost their running back, Makai Hughes, who had 1,400 yards to Oregon in the portal. So we'll see how they can recover that. But kind of the same idea as Arizona State, like you said, the Boom. It's a lot easier to replace a running back than it is a quarterback. So I think if Retzlaff is able to step in there and have a big season, I think that's a big question mark because, it was so last minute him transferring that I think the Green Wave are going to make their way back to a New Year's Six bowl game into the playoff. So that's who I've got there.
Even with Mensa leaving and Makai Hughes leaving, that's kind of
I think
crazy
so.
to me.
I think so. Yeah, their head coach, the former Troy head coach, he always had success there. I think it sustains moving on to Tulane as well in his second year.
Respected.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm a believer in Tulane's program direction. I think they're doing a lot of right things there. I think they're marshaling their resources as a private university well. I think they come short in the AAC title game. I mean, they can even win it. I don't see them being in the playoff. I have the Mountain West winner being there, which UNLV will be good this year. They will be competitive, and I have them competing with Boise State for that. I think Boise State could very well find themselves back in the playoff. However, don't take your eyes away from the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt is a very respectable conference from top to bottom. It's very competitive, and that was their issue in previous years, is that they were a little too competitive. They would beat up on each other in conference play. James Madison was doing great its first year in FBS, and then they lost to App State in an overtime game there in Harrisonburg. That is a conference to watch. They typically end up beating up on each other, but I think you could potentially see like a 12-1, 13-0 Sun Belt champ, really giving the committee something to think about um, going into Selection Sunday.
So you're going with Boise State or UNLV?
Gonna go with Boise State. I think they make it
Okay.
back there, but the group of five will be fun to watch this year. I think the door is pretty open. Last year I think you could look and see, yeah, Boise State kind of has it locked down. It's much less clear this year, but the Mountain West is the best pedigree of the group of five right now. And I think that will. I think there will be some debates on which group of five team should make it and should be the representative, which is not something we've seen yet. But it will be a fun debate to have come December. But I think you're going to see multiple suitors for this step forward to take that final audit.
Yeah, I had a lot of trouble with this. Like, there's not that many proven players returning in the group of five. Like last year, I picked Boise State last year because I knew about Genty, and Liberty had Caden Salter. So those were the two biggest. So I'm just gonna go with Boise State. Spencer Danielson's a really good coach. I like what I saw from Maddox Madsen last year. I think he takes a big step this year. But yeah, I'm just going with Boise State because that's what seems like everyone likes them this year, and they have a good coach. So I think I'm just gonna go with the chalk pick. So let's go into the most fun part about this. We're gonna do the college football playoff predictions. Just list off your 1 through 12. So the
All
fish
right.
you can start.
Sure. So I got Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Penn State, Notre Dame, SMU, Arizona State, Florida, Michigan, and Tulane. A couple of bold predictions, a lot
Wow.
of bold predictions in there, actually. But I'm not as heavy on a little bit less SEC schools. I got SMU in there as an at-large. Jennings is still there as their quarterback. I don't think much changes for them. Florida and Michigan are going to be really, teams that are long card, but I love Lagway. I really love what I saw from him last year. This is a make or break year for Billy Napier. I think they make their way into the playoff. And even if I mess one of these up, if you look back at the podcast me and Dewey did last year, I said Florida State was going to be the last large team in. Okay, so I have to have some outlandish pick every year that just completely flops. One of these teams will probably that'll be the case, but we'll see.
All right.
All right. So for me, I'm going to go in order of conference winners first. So it'll be Texas, Arizona State, Clemson, and then Boise State. So that's your five right there. Yeah, did I get that? I got that right. Yep. Okay. And then you're gonna have Georgia, Notre Dame will return. They'll be good. Ohio State, Penn State, and then where was it? I think you'll see Bama get in there, and then you're also gonna get, as I was saying earlier, you're gonna get somebody from outside the ACC title game and somebody outside the Big 12 title game, and the loser of those games are not gonna make it. Is my goal. Is my prediction. And so I think you're going to see SMU, and then I think you're going to see BYU be in there. So you're going to have, the West well represented, not the West Coast, but you're going to have the West well represented in this. I think BYU figures it out, sneaks in, grabs the spot. And same thing with SMU. I think there's going to be some debate over those two programs. Again, kind of realignment pieces over these last couple of years. And I think it's going to piss some people off, specifically maybe in Baton Rouge or Gainesville. They're going to be a little upset to see a 1 or 2 loss BYU and a 1 or 2 loss SMU getting in over some other SEC teams. But again, the one thing that this AP poll has going for it, and I think it tracks with the rest of this, season, is that there's a lot of diversity of programs. I mean, again, I knocked on the poll for having just seemingly random teams thrown in, from 10 to 20. But the fact is it's a very diverse set of teams there. You have South Carolina, Illinois, who will make runs at things like this. And so to have a little more of a diverse showing in the playoff, I think you're gonna see that. It just will not be some of these teams that they have thrown in the middle of the poll right now.
Dang, you guys have some really hot takes in your playoff predictions. So this might be a shocker, but I have Clemson as my number one. I'm just so high on this team. I have Texas 2, Ohio State 3, Bama 4, Penn State 5, Notre Dame 6, Arizona State 7, South Carolina 8, LSU 9, Oregon 10. I guess my hot take is Indiana. I think they're gonna make it 2 years in a row. I love their team with Mendoza coming in from Cal. D'Angelo Pons is one of my favorite cornerbacks in the country. Elijah Surratt's an elite wide receiver. Then you have Mikhail Kamara rushing the passer. So I really like Indiana. I think they're going to get back there. And then 12, I have Boise State. And one thing I want to point out is if my like predictions go through, I'm gonna have like the craziest matchups. Like this might be the best college football playoff ever. Like I have Penn State playing Boise State, rematch of last year. I got Notre Dame, Indiana, rematch of last year. I got South Carolina, LSU playing, or SEC matchup. I got Arizona State, Oregon, a former Pac-12 matchup. Then in the second round, I'll have South Carolina, Clemson, then Alabama, Penn State. Like that'll be amazing. Then Ohio State, Notre Dame from the last year's championship game. Then I'll have Texas, Arizona State. That's another game from last year. Then, okay, well, I'll just start off with, we're going to go to the semifinals next. I'll just share mine first. I'll have Clemson, Alabama in the semifinals, which is the famous championship game. Then I'll have Ohio State, Texas, which was a semifinal game last year. So if mine comes to reality, this will be like, it would break TV. So I'm hoping my bracket actually happens because this would be absolutely sick. I'm not going to leak my national championship prediction yet. So yes, my semifinals off Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State, Texas. So, Fish, could you share your semifinal would be?
Sure, yeah. So I also have Texas and Arizona State playing in a quarterfinal and a rematch, but I think Arizona State gets the best of them. I think experience wins out here. And I have Arizona State with the upset. I have them taking on Clemson after beating Georgia there. Also very high on Clemson. And then the other matchup, I've got Bama against Ohio State. Believe it or not, dude, I think we have very similar quarterfinals because I also have Bama, Penn State. I also have Ohio State, Notre Dame. I just think the seating's a little bit different around there. But like, I think honestly, that taking a step back at like more of a meta perspective, this 12-team playoff is going to create any combination of games you could see there. There's going to be some kind of storyline, something really interesting to watch, and it's going to be must-see TV regardless. Like you look at your bracket, I'm sure the Boobs bracket's the same way. You're going to see really intriguing matchups there, historic matchups. So I think this is a great thing that we have the 12-team playoff. I'm a little bit disappointed it's going to go to 14, but that's a separate conversation.
The playoff was a huge success last year. I really enjoyed it as someone who was kind of like giving up on college football. It honestly brought me back into the sport because I used to only really watch Pitt, but this playoff, man, has been awesome. So, all right.
And people, sorry, I don't mean to
You're
interrupt
good.
one more
You're
time.
good.
People talk about, all the first round games were blowouts. I mean, they were still really fun games to watch. And then the
The
quarterfinals were
Notre
just
Dame home
incredible.
game was sick.
Yeah, that's the thing. Those sorts of environments, like that's what it's all about. Even if they're in blowout environments, then you look a couple of years down the line. If one of those teams, a group of five, walks in and makes that upset, then bam, you have a story for generations to come for that program and for everyone who loves college football. So I think this is an amazing thing.
All right, the boom. Share
All
your
right.
semifinal.
I got Texas, Penn State in semifinal one. Again, Penn State's going to be seeded, I think, poorly enough to end up matched up with Texas there. And yes, Penn State, I do have advancing to the national title game, by the way, just a little preview. But they're going to, yeah, so I have Texas,
What's
Penn
wrong with
State in
you?
semifinal one.
Do you know this program?
And then my second semifinal, I've gone back and forth in this because I think there's a lot of teams that can come out of there. I really like Clemson. I think they're built for, this kind of playoff format. So I've got Clemson, and I'm going to put them against either Georgia or Arizona State. I really can't decide. I love Arizona State. Just watching how Kenny Dillingham's team rose to the moment every time they came out to play at the end of last season. And this isn't even, talking about the Big 12 title game or anything like that. This is like those last few weeks, his team was ready, prepared, and it showed every time they touched the field. So I really want, like, that's the feel good pick to have in the semifinals. But I'm gonna go with Clemson and Georgia. So Clemson, Georgia, and then Penn State, Texas. The SEC is going to be happy that they've got two teams in the semifinal. But I'll just go ahead and get it kicked off then for my national title game. I have Clemson versus Penn State. It's going to start some conversations just generally within the sport in terms of access and things like that. The SEC is not going to be happy, and the Big Ten's not going to be happy that they don't have their champion anywhere close to that, or a team that wasn't in the title game making the national title game. That's my prediction here. But this Penn State team is good enough to make the national title game. They're not good enough to be Clemson. I have Clemson winning the national title this year. I don't because again, that's a really hard route to take. Come at me in January, but where I have Penn State seated, they would not have a bye. That's a lot of games to play. And I think Clemson getting the bye as a conference champion will be the difference in a game like that, at a time of year like that. Even though Clemson, did have the extra game to play for the conference title, that bye between that game and the second round of the playoff is going to be important to have, and it will pay dividends come, national championship Monday. I think Clemson gets it done over Penn State. It'll be a middle scoring game. It'll be like 33-20, something like that.
All right, enough out of you, the boom. All right, where do you have the fish?
All right. So I've got my number 4 seeded team, Clemson, knocking off Arizona State, making the kind of handily and making the national championship. And then I've got number 2, Ohio State, beating number 3, Alabama in a classic to reach them. So it's Clemson, Ohio State. It's kind of an unstoppable force versus an immovable object, with Ohio State's high-powered offense and Clemson's tough defense, arguably the best in the country at both of what they do. And I just think experience wins out here. I think Clemson, Cade Klubnik, their defense holds strong. I mean, obviously, Ohio State has the experience being in the national championship the year before, but I think the youth of Julian Sands is going to get to him in this game, especially against such a good defense. Throw a couple picks, and I think Clemson is going to be your 2025 national champions.
That's crazy because all three of us were picking Clemson. I'm so high in Clemson.
That's crazy.
I'm shocked. I thought one of you guys were going to pick like Texas or something, but yes, I'm going to go Clemson beating Texas in the national championship game. In my opinion, these are the two best teams. Texas is these are the two best. Okay, I wouldn't say because I love Alabama's defense. But yes, I'm going to say it. Texas and Clemson have the two best defenses in the country. I'm going with Clemson because they have the best quarterback in the country. Klubnik, this guy's been there for 5 years now. You saw him really kind of break out last year. I think Clemson is the most complete team in football, and no one's talking about wide receiver Antonio Williams not enough. This Agent Zero, he's a really good wide receiver. I already talked about the other guys. So yes, I think Clemson is the most complete team in the country with the best quarterback in the country. So I'm taking Clemson over Texas in the national championship game. So let's 2 more things we're going to go over. So let's go over our Heisman pick. The fish, who's winning the Heisman?
Before I go to the Heisman pick, one quick thing. I think someone we haven't talked about at all is Clemson legend Ian Shefflin at tight end this year.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay, you know what? I have a bold prediction that just came to my mind. I'll hold that off until the bold predictions, though. Heisman, I have Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams both making the Heisman the Heisman event. I think they're both really explosive wide receivers, great personalities for the game, being so young and around for so long for two really historic programs. I'm going to give the nod to Jeremiah Smith. I think that it's interesting because they're both going to be working with freshman quarterbacks, really young quarterbacks, see how they develop throughout the year, how they've built rapport with them, especially coming off of seasons where they have Jalen Milroe and Will Howard, 2 more polished veterans. I think Williams, it's going to be more interesting because of the fact that Milroe didn't have too great of a season last year, how he'll play. But I'm just going to give the nod to Jeremiah Smith there. I think it's a season of wide receivers. I don't see a quarterback being head over heels above the rest of the class. And in that sense, I'm going to give it to Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good pick. I get Jeremiah Smith as a Heisman finalist this year. However, there's another Jeremiah that I really, really like, and it's Jeremiah Love, an otherworldly talent. Just the run against Penn State last year just plays through my mind so often, man. That is one of the best football plays I think I've ever just had the pleasure of watching.
That was awesome.
Even on TV. Anyways, I've got him as a Heisman finalist, but it's the Heisman ceremony. They talk about it being a quarterback award. There will be a quarterback there in New York, and I've got Cade Klubnik being the guy who's there. Clemson does not get as far as they do without him, and I do think that he is that X factor that brings Clemson to the national title. And so I do think that he's going to be the Heisman, and it's going to be a case of the best player on the best team. I don't know if he's going to be most deserving of this award. Again, Fish, you talked about this being a year of wide receivers. I agree, but I think it's going to kind of be a chalk pick here. Best player, best team. It's gonna be Klubnik. I think you'll see Dabo Sweeney wind up with some awards as well, but that's besides the fact. Jeremiah Love will be my hope, because I love that guy. He's a great player. And I think he'll play well enough to warrant being in New York and being considered for it. But yeah, best player, best team, K Klubnik.
Boom, you're giving way too much credit to Penn State and Notre Dame this whole episode.
No. See,
You're
Notre
a
Dame,
rat.
they've
You
got
need to learn.
Notre Dame has some quarterback issues, but I trust their ability to hand the ball off. And so, like, that's what I feel. I mean, the Notre Dame schedule is also nothing too crazy this year. In other years, it can be a gauntlet. This year, I don't think it's as bad as the previous years. I mean, anytime you hear, this is a sidebar real quick, but there's a report out today that they're between Kenny Mechie and their other quarterback. And I'm sorry, anytime there's an elite program that's talking about having to decide between quarterbacks in training camp and fall camp, that's usually not a good sign. So I'm not too high on them. Kenny Mechie's a great prospect. Obviously, was committed to Pitt. It's going to be the run game that runs the engine for that team. I see them as a first-round playoff exit this year, but Jeremiah Love is going to be fantastic. And we'll see if Pitt can upset them in November.
Yeah, in all serious, Jeremiah Love is probably the best running back in the country, so I totally get that. But yeah, my Heisman pick is the same as the Booms. I'm going K Klubnik as well. He's the best returning quarterback. I think he's gonna have like a Kenny Pickett, Joe Burrow, Bo Nix type of season. It's his like fourth or fifth year. I think he's gonna be fantastic. Yeah, I think he's the quarterback and the best team in the country. He's gonna win the Heisman. So I have Cade Klubnik winning the Heisman. All right, let's finish off the episode with some hot takes. The Fish, you can start us off.
All right, I already gave one of my hot takes, which was the ASU Texas playoff game rematch in the quarterfinals. I think Arizona State upsets the number one team in the country in Texas. I think that's gonna send shockwaves throughout the country. I think my second, I actually have a couple of hot takes now. My second one is I think Nebraska has a huge season this year with Dylan Raiola. Matt Rule knows how to build programs. Obviously, Nebraska is the sort of program where it's like, I won't believe it until I see it. But that's why it's a bold prediction, right? I think there would be a couple spots away from the playoff, believe it or not. Their schedule is not that difficult. The Big Ten is a conference that's evaluated really well, and we'll see what happens. Michigan and Nebraska, do they play? That might be a deciding factor in that last playoff spot. I think there's an undefeated group of 5 team who gets in. The Boom was talking, or doesn't get in, sorry. I know the Boom was talking a lot about the Sun Belt. You get like the JMU who runs the table in the regular season, maybe loses that championship game and doesn't get in, or one of those service academies. Their strength of schedule might not be as good. They might lose and might not get in. I think that's going to be a huge talking point of like, oh, this team, they won every game, but still they didn't make it in because of one hiccup, or there was another group of 5 team that was slightly better. I think that would be really interesting. And then the last prediction I just thought of, Ian Shefflin scores a touchdown in the national championship game. Fuck yeah.
That's wild, the Fish.
That'd be nuts.
Are you okay?
Not as crazy as saying UTEP's in the playoff from a couple years ago by Rich.
Hey, speaking of UTEP's going to be good this year. Is Scotty Walden's their head coach out there. What a great culture guy. They have what's his name? Former 5-star UCLA recruit as their quarterback now out there. Yeah, Malachi Nelson. They're gonna be a tough out. I really think they're doing something good out in El Paso. They will play well in the Conference USA. I don't think they're there yet. Give them another year or two. Hopefully, Walden doesn't get poached or picked off by another team before he can actually do something with the Miners there. But so they're not. UTEP is not on my hot takes list. My hot take list this year is Georgia Tech beats Georgia. We saw it last year. This year it's gonna be that game's gonna be at home, or actually it's in Atlanta this year, which is a big talking point for some people. But I think in that neutral site environment, which is gonna skew towards Dogs fans, if you're Georgia Tech, I don't know why you give that game up. I don't know why you move that down the road to Mercedes-Benz. Regardless, hopefully they sell that game properly and it's a 50-50 crowd. Because that is one of college football's core rivalries. Even when Georgia Tech has not been great over the last decade or so, that game has been a spectacle to see, even if not competitive. I think that game's going to be very competitive this year. I think Georgia Tech gets it done. It will not impact Georgia because of how these conferences are aligned this year. Again, I think UGA does very well in the SEC. It won't bother them, but it'll rattle them going in to the playoff and going into the postseason. So Georgia Tech gets it done in clean old fashioned hate this year. Other hot takes. I think Pitt once again finds himself in the middle season conversation for the playoff. I think they start strong. I think they end the season on a very rough schedule. They play Miami and they play Notre Dame towards the end of the year, and I hope that they can hold it together. My hot take for them is that this team can get to 10 wins. They can. I don't think they will, but they can. And it starts September 28th versus Louisville. That's a game you got to pick up. If you're going to go anywhere, that's a game you got to pick up. It's a game I have them picking up. Their schedule is pretty favorable. They're picked 9th in the preseason poll. I think they'll beat that. It is low, and this team is talented. You don't win 6 games on a fluke, and you don't lose the last 7 in a row by a fluke either. But I mean, to start the game on a 6-game win streak, longest since 1981 to start the season, like that's stuff that didn't even happen when Pickett was playing here. So they have the talent. Des Reed is All-American caliber. I mean, we have the best linebackers in the country. And Eli, I think, if he can take just a half step forward, this team will be dangerous. It will not be a team that you want to play. It's just a matter of how much better these other teams end up being. Finally, my last one is kind of in the same vein, Fish. You really made me think about it, but it's the fact that I think the group of 5 is going to have multiple suitors, and at the end of the season, there's going to be some conversations, and it's going to be the SEC talking about how they should have gotten a few more teams in, and then a lot of other college football fans saying how, hey, there's a 13-0 group of 5 champ that deserved a shot to play against the big boys. You guys don't want to schedule these guys anymore, but now here they come along. They did all they could do, and they're going to get stuck with like the Cure Bowl as their, consolation prize. So there's going to be some more conversations to be had about this playoff format and things like that. But that is my hot take, is that we're going to be in another mess as it comes to the championship format of the sport at the end of the season.
So, yeah, I have 3 hot takes. 2 of them I already kind of talked about. I'm not going to talk about them any further because I've talked about it enough. The first one's Georgia's not going to make the playoffs. I already kind of talked about that. The second one I already talked about the whole episode was, Penn State. They're going to do their normal Penn State. I already talked about it enough. But, they're not going to make the semifinals. It's self-explanatory. But here's my hot take that I haven't talked about yet is I think Caleb Downs will be a finalist for the Heisman Award. This guy's He's a fantastic safety. He returns punts. He's going to have multiple interceptions, a lot of tackles, a lot of splash plays. I think we don't see many defensive players be finalists for the Heisman, but I think Caleb Downs will be in New York City. He will be a finalist. I love Caleb Downs, the best defensive player in the country. So, that's going to wrap it up, man. That was an awesome conversation. I'm so excited for college football. The Boom and the Fish, thanks for coming on. Can't wait to watch these games and talk these games. So, more episodes to come about college football. And hail to Pitt, and so excited for college football.
Love it.